Hey guys, Sam back with you here. Oh, we're middle of the day on the 4th of December, and again, members request here. I've got some people that are trading Ethereum to the dollar here. Now this is the 4-hour of Ethereum to the US dollar tether on Poloniex. And there's some good things here to learn, and so I thought we could turn this into both identification of opportunities that may be setting up, as well as some education. So here, this is the 4-hour, so I've got a longer term count on this, and this is my primary count on this now. I've seen some that do not agree with this count, amongst Ellioticians, but I think it's valid, and I'll try and make my case for it. I think we've just done a 3, 4, 5 here, and we've got a truncated fifth here. We're not quite as high here, and that this is our one wave, and that all we've done now is put in a 1, 2, and we're in the process of putting in the one wave of our third wave, which would imply much higher prices. But let's build a case here. Now, we can go back here and we can look at this. So this was the absolute low here. Going all the way back. And I think I've done some video on this before. But this is my lowest low prior to the move into the larger degree one wave. Here's our 2. So I'm pulling from the start of the one wave, and just by wicking it, I can keep that within range if I want to do some measuring here. So here's the start of the one wave. So if I pull from that low and I go up to my 3 high. So this was the big sell-off, earlier in the year, the China fear factor. And you can see it was very technical here. So the A wave to the 50 to the tick, we pop up for the B. We don't, there was a reasonable case to be made that from that low we were heading for the algo target. At that point in time, we don't get it, and we subdivide into a larger degree A, B, C. So we get an A, B, C into an A wave. Then we get our B, and then we come down and we finish. We get a nice 5-wave subdivision, an impulsive 5 wave to complete a C wave. And while we do go through by a couple of ticks, still very technical. And so we pivot there, and then from there we get this very clean 5-wave sequence here. And the expectation was still at that point that at a minimum target for that fifth would have been up here for the algo target, but we just didn't get it. And looking at that, there's a few things to learn here. So let me open this up so you can see it. So we end up, so as I've done many times, and I would always encourage you to do, wick off your one waves. And so I'll go through and do them here. All right. So there's more of them here, but you can see that's just a habit to get into, even on the way down. So here was the one way here was the 4. We don't overlap, so we stay impulsive. So from this move here, so we get the spike here. Here's our 1. We get a deep 2. Right? Then we get a 1, 2, 3, a shallow 4. We don't overlap the 1, and then we finish with an ending diagonal. Here's the 4 overlapping the 1. We know an ending diagonal only found in a fifth wave or a C wave. So that plays technically, and we had some good we had some good evidence here that we had a strong pivot at that time. So if I pull my wave 1 projected from my 4. You can see that we went to the 100%, most common target for the fifth, 100% of the one wave projected from the 4. We got it to the tick. We happened to wick up here at the 618, also found in a fifth. But that gives us the third of the fifth, and then we get an absolute perfect hit right here for this fifth, right? So it was a bit of a surprise, but given that technical swing, that's not uncommon. In fact, it's quite common. So seeing that relative to this degree, now there was some very strong potential that what we had there was a 1, 2 of the larger degree. But given what we've seen now, what I believe we have here, and let me finish up just by showing you this. So whenever you get those kind of pivots, right, of course you're going to put a pitchfork on it. This happens to be the shift pitchfork, and you see we go. So from here, of course, median line, through it, back, we hover around it, trading principle number 3. If you don't pivot on the median line, you'll make small swings around it, and then we end up moving from the median line up to get the upper parallel channel of the shift median. So that confluence of evidence here, right, as I often talk about, telling us that we had price, pattern, geometry, structure, all there, and what I think we have done is ended up with a double top for a fifth, for this degree here, this in green, for a truncated fifth, finishing the one wave of the largest degree. Right? So this is my primary count. I think that count remains fairly solid. Here's part of the reason that I think that. So if that's a 3, 4, and we're completing here for a one wave, then pulling from my absolute low, right, which is the start of the one wave of that degree, I go to my absolute high. What's my expectation? I'm looking for the 50%, where the algo is going to buy the 50%. That's why I think we've got a 1, 2. Right, so then we get a nice ABC. We finish here. We get an absolute perfect to the tick second wave with that ABC that you'd be looking for, right? So we've got that nice ABC building a strong case, right? And we won't know until we see the entire thing unfold. But I think you can make a very strong case for at least this to be one of two counts, that we've got that this 1, 2 on the largest degree is in play. Okay, as you know right now at this point, if I've got a 2 wave in, I'm expecting a 3. I'm looking for subdivision within that third. So I get kind of a funky 1, 2 here, and then I get a 3, 4, 5. So I get an unusual shape here, but I get my 1 wave here, and then given that, right? So here's my 2. My expectation is, right, so if you recall all the way back here so now note here what kind of interesting. Now if we look back with this as our pivot, that goes right into the pocket. Here's to the tick. So from that absolute low, right, this is why you never want to discount these, and you always want to pay attention to them. From our absolute low before the 3, 4, 5, right, pulling from that low to what we are projecting as the wave 1 high. Here's our algo buy here at the 50 to the tick, and if they finally here now get the negative 23, right? So that target has been made, and so algos take profit there, and so the first thing we get here is this reaction, then they come back up again and then back down. So this is the volatility here is not unusual given the algos hit their price target there. So that's profit taking, but the market remains strong. So we're not no reason to think that we've topped here on a larger degree just because algos took profit. Quite the contrary. At this point, we think we've got now a 1, 2, and potentially a 3. Right. So with that now marked, we can take that off because that's been realized. That algo target's been realized. So we have potentially now a 1, 2 of the larger degree in white here, meaning that our 3, 4, and 5 are much, much higher. Okay, so we've got 1, 2. So here now we go again. So we get another 1, 2. So if that's legit, and here's our what? So we come back down to the 50, and we actually double tap it twice. You see that? So I'm marking the wave 1 here. Support. Interesting, again, just as I talked about in prior videos. Always good to wick off those wave 1s because often, note here where the A wave goes, that prior resistance will offer support. You see it here, prior resistance of this 1 wave of this smaller degree here of this 3, 4, 5, telling me that I've got support there, and then we get the big launch. And take note here. So here's the algos at the 50 where they like to buy it. Here's their first target, second target. Here's their absolute extreme up here. That's the negative 100% from that pull. Okay, so algos take profit. Boom, again, right? So you see the same thing over and over again. So here's our wave 1, here's our 2. So now what are we looking for? We'd be expecting from wave 2, right? If I can get that low just right. If that's my 3, well, what have we done here? Right, so see how the exact same thing is repeating. So here's my wave 1, prior resistance offering support here. Yeah, we got through it by a tick or two. There's my Vegas wave offering support. Okay, so I've got of this degree now. Do you understand? So of the larger degree, there's my 1, 2, but this 1 is not relative to this degree. You see that? Because that 3 is way, way, way higher if that's gonna be how it plays. So what the one that's significant to this 4 is this one here. So 1, 2. Okay, if that's my 1, 2, I'm going to project the length of my 1. I want to see, does it qualify from my 2? Okay, well, here's the highest probability zone for it, right? This is, you've seen me wick this off and note this with the hot box many, many times. And you know this if you watch my videos. The highest probability for a wave 3 is the box between 1618 and 175. Well, we get a little shy. We're a little shy of it there. So maybe, you know, that's close enough. You got some front-running algos there. We know that was the negative 100 from this fib pull. Right, so could just be that, you know, for whatever reason that it gets front run, that they take profit early. But looking here now, okay, so just looking at that, right? So you know the very first thing I'm going to do is put a pitchfork on that. So I'm going to go from this wave, this low here, the start of my 1. I'm going to go to my 2. Okay, well that's the shift. So let's get the original on there, right? Look at that and see how that's playing. So there's that. Okay, so that's my original, but I've gone outside of it, so I'm going to add. Let's go here. Let's get the 1.5 on it. And that's to the tick. Okay, so here's my median line. So from here, okay, right, Andrew's principle number 1, the corner pocket trade, right, as you've seen me now talk about many, many times. So not only do we have the corner pocket trade, we have an 80% probability of making the median line, which we do right here. We also have a perfect, right, as I just showed you, right, building a case. We get a perfect 50% here. So this is a trade you simply have to take, right? That's a must take. So from here, so we've got the corner pocket, we've got 80% odds. From this 50, here's the negative 23. You see, so there's the algo target essentially for a potential double top. So from here to here, so just that trade alone. All right, so if we just measure that out. All right, so there's the target. Stop under the 65. There's 4 to 1 just on your first target. Right, do you see that? Now, given that that's a 1-2, even though you have an algo target there, you haven't gone 100% for your 3. So if you were going to take a partial profit there, which would make sense, then here's your next target here. That's the 100. So we hit it. Now we go to the negative 100, qualifying in green here. That is a third wave because now I'm longer. I've gone farther in price distance than the length of the 1 here at the 100%. So I can quantify this third as this structure here as a third wave because I am longer than the first, right? And we end up going, as I showed you before, here's the negative 100. So we end up with essentially this box here, and we don't quite make the 618. All right, you know, nothing's, you know, perfection is unattainable, but that gives me a high degree of confidence that I've got a good pivot here, and then, right? So so from here. Pivot, outside edge, we go to, we hover at the upper parallel, and it ends up getting the 1.5 to the tick, right? So potentially that being another some market geometry there suggesting, so you look at that and you go, well, why did it stop there? Well, there's the 1.5, so maybe that's the geometry they're working with. So that ends up being the 3 high. So given that, we're now expecting the 4. Look, so again, this is why these are value, right? So this is the wave 1 of the largest degree. Prior resistance offering support. Happens to be at the prior algo target. Happens to be we're not on the median line, but we're close to it. We come right to the 50, which is exactly what we're expecting for the 4th, somewhere between the 38 and the 50. Right? Do you see that? Start to make sense? Okay, so now we may come down. So if you were looking here and so let me open this up. Let's go to the hourly. We can see it, get another look at it. So here's how we've been trading it in potential setup here. So here's that spike high up to that pivot, that negative 100 where we went just a little bit shy. Well, so here we can look at, now I've switched exchanges. So this just happens to be a Kraken where I'm trading it and some others are trading it. So here's where I see the next opportunity. So if we're going to get a 2 here, we've got our first entry opportunity here, first here. So this would be a smaller bite at it here, small in case we don't make the 50. Right, if we're going to get a shallow here based off of an ABC, here's the high. If you're going to go a little heavier, you would do it here. You can see I've got that alarmed because I want to know if I'm going to come down to the 50. Expectation being that as it's a 2 wave, the probability is we get to the 50, but we've seen shallow retracements in these strong markets. So those are that's how members in the room, how we're trading it here. But let me take those off. So you can see that one's 3 to 1, this one 5 to 1, but just So you see this here. So there's a couple of good things to note here. So here's the ABC, right? Shallow C. We get below the A wave, but we don't get 100% of the A, the length of A projected from the B. We do get this interesting. This is a great visual of what an expanding diagonal and an ending diagonal look like. So we get an ending diagonal in the fifth of the third, but you see how it's an expanding diagonal. So it's kind of that megaphone kind of a shape that you will often see in expanding diagonal, and it of course just can't resist doing this. So do you see that? So we get from the low of the start of the 1 wave up to the 3 projected from the 4, we go right to the upper parallel channel, so giving you structure. Again, the question mark is, why does it stop there? Well, you got the upper parallel here, you got the 1.5 on the 4 hour, and as I recall, you had, so in a diagonal, we're going to pull the length of the start of 1 to 3 projected from the 4th. And here's that we didn't, again, I shy here as well. We didn't get the 1618. There's the 1272, but the structure caught it, and then we get this big steep reaction. Okay, so let me pull that off. So again, why go through that exercise? How is it relevant now? Because it's giving me confidence in this pivot as a third, because it all plays technically. So I'm going to take that off since we've shown that. So first target here, that's the -23 off of this pull. So if indeed we've got a 3, 4, 5 completing for a 1 wave, the more conservative play is to be a buyer at the 50. So you get that target, right? No need to be, well, here you can actually be tighter. So it depends on your risk tolerance and your account size. But you could stay with a 2. You stay under the 65. Right, so you're under. So from the 1 to the 2, looking for the entry at the 50, stop below the 65. That's 3.6 to 1. But take note now, that's the first algo target, right? If we're going to get a 1, 2, 3, we know we've got to get at least 100% of the length of 1. Right, so we're going to get a box if, and we don't know, but if the 50 is our 2, well, here's our 100%. So this might be a place for partial profit. This would be your next place. That's 100%. But the more likely target, right, as we've discussed many times, for a wave 3 would be the 1618 to 175. So there's your hot bucks up here, giving you that target, which now you've got 8.3 to 8.4 to 1. So you've got all sorts of good setup potential here. You've got pattern, you've got fib pull, you've got the algo relationship here. We know that they like to buy at the 50 on a 1 hour. So there's your first target, thus it's marked, and we've got higher targets as well. So if this is going to play as a 3, 4, and we're now in the 1, 2 of the 5th of this degree, those become our targets, right? So it's again, guys, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, right? So if that's my 1, 2, and we don't have a pivot to work with yet on our 2, so we're waiting for confirmation. So since I've got that, I'm not going to ignore what's happening on this side. So I've got 3 pivots. So if this is not going to hold, right, I'm gonna consider what else might be happening here. So kind of early to be doing this, but I would want to pay attention. So I'm gonna go to my shift and look at that and go, okay, well, if I'm gonna go 1, 2, and I know I'm looking for entry on the 50. Well, interestingly, there's the 618, 6.5 box at that median line. So the potential is there. If you're putting your stop just on the other side of the 65, you could run into some. You could get popped there. So that's kind of a judgment call you have to make. If you're a buyer at the 50 and then you notice that, can you afford to bring that stop below the 786, knowing full well that a wave 2 can and often does go as low as the 786. But that, depending on the time frame, if we got there here, yeah, for me, right, I would pull it back a little bit because that would give me more confidence in this as a potential pivot, knowing Andrew's median line trading principle number 2 is that very often we will see a pivot on the median line. So that would give me some confidence that I could look for a pivot there. And then additionally, since I've got a little AB, I'm going to look for the alternate price projection here. So I'm going to, if that's my A, that's my B. Right, so there's the 100%. Right, so if I open this up, Okay, so there's the 100%, so I get a little buy box, a little hot box here for the buy, right here between the 100% alternate of a potential ABC and the 50. Right, here's the 618, potential for an ABC relationship. There's the next little structure here if we're going to go deeper on that. There's the 1618, 175 on the other side, projecting from an ABC, much like it would be a 1, 2, 3, same relationship. Here's my 786. So those are all, you know, it's a scenario, right? You can't be certain about anything. All I can look at that and go, okay, well, I've got a good impulsive 5-wave structure. That's really all I can be definitive about. And now I'm starting to correct that. Am I going to come to the 50? Well, so what's the point of drawing the box down there? Well, we know the highest probability zone for a second is between the 50 and the 618. That's the only reason I'm making that case there. It's just probabilities. Nothing says we have to do that. But I've got a good case that, you know, this is potentially an entry here, and maybe I do a partial here at the 50 at this little box here. So maybe first bites, little appetizer here at the 100 to the 50, and then I've got a full meal down here at the 618, 65 box because I can put my stop just on the other side of it, right? So I can be a little more aggressive here because the stop is so low. You see that? So building that case, and then if, again, we don't know, but if that were to be my pivot, well, then I would do the same thing. I would be pulling median lines from here to here. Let me put that back to original, right? And then, right, so look, so if I get a corner pocket trade here, which potentially sets up rather nicely, well, there's the algo target, right? There's the negative 23, but it's not, right? We'd have two targets. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm combining two things. So from the one if, and again, I'm just hypothesizing, if that's my 2 right here in my little hot box down here, well, I've got my corner pocket trade. There's my median line. That's the 618. Too short for this to be a one wave. There's the 100 up here, and here's the negative 618. You see that? So I've got potential. I get multiple targets, but I'm certainly going to pay attention to what happens at the median line, because I could get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my third because it could subdivide again. Do you see that? Right. So I want to look for that combination. If we come down here and I'm pulling this down here, that wouldn't surprise me at all. That would be just textbook. Like, so we'd get our corner pocket down here at the 618, 65. Right, so then I'm getting then look at my risk reward, looks even better. Right, you see. So now if I were a buyer down here, stop on the other side of the 786 because we know a 2 can go that low. Right, so if you want to be more conservative and wait to see if you get that, well then your target is here. Well, now we'd move this from here. Well then your target is here, and your upside targets, if that's going to be deep. Well, I mean there's 7.5 to 1. You see it, right? So, but I certainly want to pay attention because I know if it's going to be at the 50 or the 786, and if being the operative word here, we don't know that we're going to pivot there. But I get a confluence of evidence here. I've got my pattern, I've got my structure, I've got my median lines, I got my corner pocket trade setting up, I got all the things that I look for, and I've got excellent risk reward, right? So all potentially setting up for just the kind of trade we look for, right? Modest amount of risk with excellent risk reward, right? So there's 7.5 to 1, 80% odds if we pivot here, right? You can't, that would be just absolutely textbook, right? Just a perfect trade, perfect, right? Should we come to the 618, 65 box at the shift median line, setting up a corner pocket, 80% odds that we get back to the median line. Is it going to be here? Bounce, here, we don't know. We just know that a high probability that it gets there. All right, guys, that's 23 minutes. I'll wrap it there on Ethereum, and that'll probably be it for the day.